Hey there, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for waiting. So, we've got a fully packed episode today, and I'm not just saying that. We have a lot to talk about, starting with gaming and computer news, and one of them makes this giraffe not safe for work. So, keep watching to see what that's all about. We had an upgrade to the OSEAM office, and speaking of upgrades, that's one of the articles that dropped this week. 11 setup upgrades that I can't live without. Spoiler alert, it's an ultra-wide monitor. But I talk about what monitors are right for you. And we'll talk about some comments people have already had about that. We're going to talk about tech call centers and some of the issues that the workers there deal with, some of the abuse that they have to deal with from the public. And I'm also going to dive into how an emulation front end works on Steam OS and some neat things you can do in it when you have a Steam controller, one of the new ones, the new Steam controller too. I've also played Voidling Bound, which dropped earlier this week, and I can show that to you so you can see if you want to drop the $22 for it. Also, I'm showing off the amazing graphics of Subnautica 2, which released earlier in May, but it's still a good game. So with that, let's go over the tech news for the week. Get rid of this giraffe. We'll show him in a minute. So, Nintendo announced some new things today, or not today, earlier this week. They're doing the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. It's been revealed for the Nintendo Switch 2. And that's great and all, and it seems like Nintendo's doing a lot of remakes and rehashing a lot of same stuff. So this is going to be out. Let's see what this is all about. The rumors are true. Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Switch 2 is real. They announced a trailer, so you can just search and look for that press release to see the trailer on that. And this was originally a Nintendo 64 game, and they're remastering it or redoing it for 2026. So looks like that it's going to be, he's not going to be the cute little cartoony character he was on the Nintendo 64. But that's great that they're doing that. But one thing I have to say about Nintendo is that it seems like they're rehashing a lot of the old stuff. It's like when earlier or last week we were talking about gaming handhelds and the value proposition of them. And one of the things it seems like is to get a Switch because it seems like it's one of the cheaper alternatives you can get. Although I'm working on an analysis of using some Android handhelds, and that's probably the cheaper thing to, especially if you're into retro and emulation. But for a Switch, it didn't seem like there's a big value proposition unless you really like the games on that Nintendo's put out. But they keep putting out the same stuff. They just keep re-releasing it. And case in point, there was a game, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. My son bought it and played it, and I was looking at it, and it's like, this is basically Super Mario, just with different characters. And so it was $60, and it's like, there's nothing, this, it is not a game that you would buy the Switch for. It's not a have to have game. It is well reviewed. It's okay. It's cute, but it's been done. There's not really a lot of original stuff that Nintendo's been putting out. They just keep re-releasing stuff. Square Enix announced Final Fantasy Resonance. That's neat. And Xenoblade Genesis. That's going to be coming out in 2027 too. Yeah, that's Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. It's $60. And it's cute. But it's basically the same as a Super Mario. It's a platformer. It's cute. It's fun. But would I go out and buy a Switch 2 for it? No. Xbox also had some announcements. Star Wars Zero Company, that's going to be coming out next year, I believe, August 2027. And it is a looks like it's a tactical gameplay. So I'm not sure. It's great that they're making an announcement, but this doesn't look like something that would be a big thing that people are really anticipating, or that's going to sell a lot of consoles or whatever Microsoft's trying to sell now. If they're going to stay in the console business or get you to upgrade your PC or whatever. But they made that announcement. Um, but they also, Xbox also said that they're going to be doing split screen in upcoming Halo and Gears of War titles. So it used to be that with the Xbox 360 days, if you wanted to play multiplayer, you would have a friend on the couch with you and you do split screen. Like back in the Nintendo 64 days, people would do 4 players split screen on one screen. And back in standard definition TVs, you could barely see what you were doing because you only have a 1/4 of a screen. So that was kind of fun. But anyway, Gears of War multiplayer in the same room on the couch was hella fun. And so Microsoft's bringing that back in the upcoming Halo and Gears of War. So both Halo Campaign Evolved and Gears of War E-Day will feature 2-player split screen co-op. So couch co-op is back. That's good. Let's see. Microsoft also issued an official statement on the Elder Scrolls 6. So people have been waiting for this ever since, Skyrim has, the last Elder Scrolls game was Skyrim, and that was years and years and years ago. Basically, the TLDR on this is it's ready when it's ready. So I don't even know why they put out a press release on it because they just said, let's see if I can find the quote. They said it looks amazing and it's coming along well. They said that most of the studio at Bethesda is working on Elder Scrolls 6, and they'll have more information forthcoming about how the game is coming along later, and that it'll be announced when the time is right. So that's a big nothing burger. Elder Scrolls 6, everybody wants to know, and they said, we're working on it. We'll let you know when it's ready. And so here is, let me close some of these other tabs because we don't need them anymore. So Valve has done a tag purge over some categories. So some of the how you find some of the games by certain tags or whatever, and Steam has made some changes into some of these. They added some new ones and got rid of some old tags. So the tags that have been removed: ambient, America, blood, crowdfunded, cult classic, documentary, drama, Dungeons and Dragons for some reason, Kickstarter, Illuminati, Lego, NSFW, not safe for work. And so that's where the giraffe that I showed you comes in. Warhammer 40K, they added some new ones. Animals, Bullet Heaven, Capybaras for some reason, Cleaning, Cult, Desktop Companion, Falling Blocks, Poker. And they added one, and so there's a category of sexual content. So they removed not safe for work and mature, but now a lot of things falls under sexual content, which is confusing, and that's where the giraffe comes in, because that giraffe is part of Wild Animal Racing, which is just it's a kid's game, which is kind of like Mario Kart, a very amateurish, well, I wouldn't say amateurish, but it's a simple game. It's an indie game, an indie developer, and but it's tagged sexual content. And I checked out the game to see if there was anything about this. Maybe there's, it's a surprise or something like that. But no, it's just it's a kart racing game, and it's labeled as sexual content for some reason. And there's a few other things if you want to go down into that category. If you're over 18 and look at some of the games. But there are some things that are kind of mislabeled that shouldn't be in that category. So maybe they'll straighten some things out. But Valve did a switch up on the some of their tags, and so some things are kind of tagged improperly. So it is what it is. MSI, so talking about some of the news from last week or the week before, how Nvidia is doing their new RTX Spark system on a chip. I was talking with one of our viewers about, because uh, based on the specs, it was kind of hard to say what the performance is like. Nvidia wasn't saying outright in the press release. It didn't seem to be clear cut to me if it's the same as a system running, a discrete graphics card and whatever. And so what I could piece together is that it was around a 5070 performance. And we were thinking that it's more likely that it's a 5050 because this is a system on a chip. It's meant to be a laptop. It's not going to be competing with, a flagship discrete graphics card or anything like that. And NVIDIA basically said, no, it's going to be similar to a 5070. And so this is a press release from MSI. They announced one of their laptops that are going to be using the RTX Spark, and that was shown at Computex 2026. So the Prestige N16 Flip AI Plus introduces a new class of thin and light AI-powered 2-in-1 laptops, enabling next-generation AI-based creative workflows development and immersive gaming. And look how thin this is. I mean, this is incredibly thin. It's probably mostly battery. It's probably all-day battery life. I'm excited for laptops like this, thin, light, that last all day. Because I have a gaming laptop, and it's really meant to be a portable system. It's not really meant to be mobile. I mean, all day. You have to be close to a power source and bring the power brick with you. So it's kind of hard to find. You either have a laptop that'll last all day, or you have a laptop that can actually game pretty well. And it's kind of hard to find one that does both. But here's a press release of some of the stuff that's upcoming. So this is one of the first RTX Spark-based laptops, and they're claiming that it's going to be everything to everyone. Powerful, lightweight, thin, and last all day. So, this one has OLED. So that's one thing that will probably contribute to the longer battery life. OLEDs do use less power because you're only lighting the pixels that you need instead of always having a backlight on, whether the pixels black or white. So that's interesting to see. What was this? Oh, yeah, already talked about that. The Elder Scrolls 6. So we'll talk about this other stuff in a minute. Oh, so we had an upgrade to the office here. Basically, for the longest time, I've had a NAS in our office, and um, it's been loud. And for the longest time, I've wanted a NAS, our bedroom closet, basically wired up, but there was no electricity or network cable to it at all. So we had an electrician come out, and not only did he wire up a port for our electric car, but he also put electric outlets in the closet. And I took the opportunity to wire some Ethernet into the office. And so one of the things I'm working on next week, I took some footage of me wiring up some RJ45 jacks properly. And so I recorded that, and I'll have a tutorial on how to wire up those Ethernet jacks, and that's going to be coming out next week. So that's why I mentioned that. So we had an upgrade to the office. So one of the servers is out of the office now, and so it's quieter in here. So that's good. One thing that was kind of interesting. So I was talking with some friends of mine that works at a call center, and she was upset because of course, if you face backlash from customers all the time, and you get called names, and most of the time sometimes it's not pleasant. And so she was just upset about that. And I have my own experience from doing call center work in the past. I used to work for a well-known video game company. I can't say the name, but it rhymes with crescendo. Uh, Many people that I worked with there had call center experience. They're usually from cell phone companies, and the satisfaction at the game call center was rather high. It's probably as good as experience as you can have for a call center. So if you're in the Seattle area, check out their call center. They usually have a recruiting push in the fall, and they do a 6-week training program so that they can do the Christmas rush. But high satisfaction there because they actually treat their employees right, and it's a lot better than a lot of the abuse that you get from other call centers, especially if the clientele tend to be abusive. Like if you're working at a financial call center, people are going to be stressed and they're going to call you names and be verbally abusive to you. But different companies have different policies. Like the one that I worked at, basically, if people were repeat offenders and were verbally abusive to you, they would get put on a ban. They would basically get banned, and you'd write them up and all that sort of thing. And if you were completely justified if hanging up on somebody if they were abusive towards you, being angry. So I feel for the people that do call center work, especially for those that deal with the public where they're generally not as nice, and that's generally financial call centers, cell phones, and it's kind of hard not to take it personally. When I worked at that game company, there'd be a lot of kids calling in, and they tried to pull one over on me all the time, and I kind of took it personally. Because that's just a hot button of mine. If people are thinking that I'm a fool or trying to pull one over on me or think I'm stupid. But the hang up button is right next to the mute button, and I'm not saying that I hung up on people, but I hung up on people. The thing to remember though is that if you're at a call center, you are in a position of power, and the people who are calling in need you to do stuff for them. So if they're being abusive to you, just step back for a minute, and they're not having a good day, and that's why they're calling you, and you're there to help them. And you're the gatekeeper, and some people that have been at these call centers for a while, sometimes they get jaded and they're not moved by your plight. All I can say is be honest, be genuine. Don't try to pull one over on the call center rep or try to lie to them because they've heard your story 100 times. So I would say compliment how well they're doing their job. Don't say you have a nice voice because that's just creepy. Don't try to hit on them. Compliment how well they're doing their job and their insight, but be genuine about it. And you're going to get a lot further with a call center. If you're calling into a call center, then you need something. And your best bet to get what you want is to be cooperative, be honest, and be nice. And that's all I got to say about that. Be nice to people, and people be nice to you. And you'll get a lot further at a call center if you're nice to people. Don't be a dick. That's all I got to say about that. Let's see. I checked out the game Voidling Bound that came out earlier this week. Let me pull that up. Let's just go through it. I made some comments. So I already have the footage of this on the OC Mod Shop Clips channel, and I'll post that link in the video description for this live stream. Okay, we are taking a look at Voidling Bound, which just came out for Steam today. These are my first impressions. So let's see what happens. I'm just going to skip through some of this. Frame limit 60. Why is it thinking I'm doing 160? Let's just do unlimited just to see what it does with this graphics. It's detected epic quality. Everything's epic. Okay, let's see what the... I think the music for this is actually kind of epic. Speaking of epic, it found that everything was epic and the music is epic, so... Running at full bore just to see what it'll do.
Humanity's insatiable thirst for knowledge has always been its hubris. By exploring the edge of the universe, we might have gone too far, flown too close to a star. In our search for the next frontier, we met the wrath of a deadly parasite. Relentless monstrosities, spreading like a plague. Their presence blackens the lands, festering, corrupting, and consuming everything in
Yeah.
the possibility to evolve and resist the legion.
So there are these creatures that can resist the plague. And basically you pull an avatar and connect mentally with these creatures. So you connect mentally with these frames a second, then have epic quality. Your bearing straight, fine. So I was doing, this is me on the ultra-wide screen monitor. So it's... Fred meets Death Stranding? What is this? So this is this first intro. That's fine. You talk to people, but basically you go and meet your creature that you're going to link to, and then you play as the creature. And I'll get to that. Frames a second. Take a look at the video on the OC Mod Shop Clips channel. So if you want to really see some of the performance. High settings, I'm getting 250 frames a second. Yeah. The GPU is at 100%. This looks about as good as Epic, so let's just... This is me meeting my creature. Yay, I got an achievement. Okay, that's great and all. You upgrade your... now I'm doing full avatar mode, and I'm connecting to my creature. Oh no, he's going in the microwave. So now I'm the creature. So it's avatar and... Huh. Okay. Yep, still steady 120 frames a second. This kind of reminds me of like Super Mario Sunshine a little bit. It's also kind of got a element of like Disney, something where you have to get rid of all the black stuff that's corrupting the world. Okay, this is like several or different games all together. Hmm. So basically shoot and you have melee attacks. Yeah. And rinse and repeat. Would I level up or something? Just skipped around for a little bit. You find a little research area that you just go and clean out. Yeah, let's use a mouse. And so by the end of this, you basically level up your creature. So there's kind of a little bit like Pokemon at the thing. So you level your creature up, and I'm going to skip ahead to a part where I upgrade my creature with fire powers. Well, this is a boss battle here. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Just strafe, shoot. Yeah, you complete. So, yeah, you meet your creature, he comes back up, and I'm going to evolve him. Desert or tropical? So, pyro or organic? Let's do pyro. Yeah, that's great. And of course, a little skill tree. Upgrade that. He's now red. So now I have fire powers. Rinse and repeat. Build your character up. And then you unlock other animals as you progress. Tap a game. Some people might dig it. So that's the gist of that. So I've already spent too much time on that, and this isn't really a gaming channel. This is really more about building your PCs and all that sort of thing. But the whole reason we build powerful PCs is for gaming a lot of times. So it's not, that's where that intersection comes in. So, but if you're interested in that, go to the OC Machop Clips channel and look at the gameplay footage if you really want to see a performance analysis and all that sort of thing. So, articles that released this week. So, we had an article about adding emulation to your DIY Steam machine. I can talk more about that. I have emulation stations set up on my Steam Deck here, and the experience is exactly the same. And I'll show something to you in just a second about using some of the touch pads on a Steam controller. I have a dual monitor versus the ultra-wide monitor comparison, and a setup game changer. I spent a lot of time and research on these things, so go check it out. It's like some gadgets that I just absolutely can't live without, and I don't think you can either. After you watch this, if you're not inspired on being creative, or if it doesn't help you game better or work better, then I don't know what to tell you. So one thing that's kind of interesting, right before the show started, there was a comment on the dual monitor versus ultra wide monitor article right here, and it said TLDR. It depends, and I'm like, well, it sure does. But what does it depend on? That's why I present all the information to you, because people don't know. That's why I made the video. Should you choose an ultra wide monitor or a dual monitor setup or more? You don't know. It depends. It does depend. If it was just going to be do you think uh, the article would say just go with ultra wide? That would be 20 seconds, but that doesn't make sense because an ultra wide monitor isn't going to work for some people. That's not how they work, and ultra wides can be expensive and people can't afford it. That's why I go over the video. So after you watch the video, I present all the information and you will know what works for you. That's the point of the video. So making a little smartass comment like TLDR, it depends. Well, yeah, duh, it sure does. Thanks for figuring that out. I'm presenting information to you. So I actually think it's kind of funny. But so go check that out. I do go over all the information about dual monitor versus ultra wide monitors, and also the information about the some setup game changing stuff. You know, some gadgets that you just absolutely can't live without. Uh, let's see. What else do we have going on? I can show some of the stuff about the emulation. So in this video about adding emulation, um, station to your Steam OS, I show basically how to install it, but I didn't go over like what all you can do with it. So here is my Steam Deck running, and so this is already the whole point of setting up Emulation Station was that basically once you have it set up, you go into the file system of the desktop and you just drop your ROMs into the ROM folders. And it's that simple. And as soon as you do, then this system pops up. Like there's an Atari 2600 folder, I think it's A2600, and you drop your ROMs in there. And as soon as you do, then this option shows up in Emulation Station. You go into it, and there's all the ROMs. And you can scrape this information, and that's where this video is. That's where the information came from. So I'll show you how you do that. It's like basically, so there's start and select buttons. So if you press select, you go to edit this game's metadata, and down here at the bottom, there's a scrape button, and I already had this set up. And it just goes out to the internet and pulls the information for this. See, it already found it, and it finds the video and the screenshot and all that sort of thing. But I'm not going to do this because I've already downloaded it. But that's how easy it is. You just drop the ROMs into the ROM folder. It shows up, and then you can scrape it. You can scrape the whole system. I mean, you can scrape the whole system at a time by pressing start, going to scraper, and then you can choose which scraper you want to use. I use the screen scraper, but that requires an account. So just go to screen scraper, create an account, and then you can they seem to have more information, like not just screenshots and marquees, but also the videos too. And you can say scrape these systems, and you just check which ones you want to do, and it will just batch scrape all of these systems that you want. But your mileage will vary based on how well you name the file names. So you'll experience them yourself. So trying to be as descriptive as possible, and it should find the stuff. If it can't, if it finds the wrong thing, then basically you can prompt it and you go in and do that manually. It's a whole process. So once you do scrape a bunch of stuff, you'll want to copy and back up your metadata and put it on another system if you upgrade or change systems, or if you have multiple emulation systems. And so that goes into some of the articles that I'm going to be talking about, where using a cheaper retro handheld comes in. So that's where these retro handhelds come in, handy, and you can have a full experience. I have a 1.5 terabyte SD card on my Steam Deck, and that's where this lives. And so let me just put that back so you don't see my face. Right? So here's all the systems I have on this, and this is a 1.5 terabyte card. Of course, Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, these don't take up a lot of space. Final Burn Neo, and Intellivision, Xbox. I don't have a lot on here because these are starting to get a little bigger because they're basically compressed CD images. Xbox 360, MAME. What starts to get bigger is, or bigger file sizes are PlayStation 2, which I'll get to in a second. See, then I have a lot of games here, and these emulate really well on a Steam Deck. But the thing that I wanted to show you is this is what you can expect. So I'm touching the left touchpad, and this menu shows up in Emulation Station. And this also works with when you install Emulation Station on your own SteamOS machine and are using a Steam controller. And if you use the left touchpad, this menu will come up. And so I just hover over and I'm press down, it'll go into a submenu. Well, it will go into a submenu. There we go. Oops. And it exit back in. I wasn't pressing it just right. So you can have quick actions for each of the different emulators that you have in here. They have pre-configured. Let me see which one is. I'm having a hard time touching this. Go back. My fat thumb isn't working. So you can, but anyway. Oh, that's a reset. Fast forward, load state, cheats, save state, pause, menu. There we go. Return to main menu, sorry. Press down on that. Anyway, there's some context menu stuff that you can do when you have a Steam controller and Emulation Station. So here's I just saw the PlayStation Vita. So most of these systems, you just drag and drop the folders, the ROMs into the folders that work. The PlayStation Vita is kind of a pain to set up. So that's the one caveat that isn't as drag and drop, the PlayStation Vita. You basically have to go into its emulator and do a whole bunch of setup and get it to work. Basically install the game, each game. It's a big pain in the butt. And it doesn't, at the time, the PlayStation Vita emulator the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in my opinion. But anyway, I just wanted to show that to you, that's one of the things you can do with when you install Emulation Station on your own Bazite system or your own SteamOS Steam machine. That's the whole thing is things are getting more expensive. So you can get some older hardware, some thrift store hardware, or build your own low spec machine that's going to run 1080p games just fine, and basically make your own Steam machine. And one of the things you can do to really enhance it is put Emulation Station on there. And as you saw, I have all the systems, all of them. So if you want your entire gaming catalog on one device, build your own Steam machine, install Emulation Station on it, and then you have everything. So that is why I show that to you, because we have the add emulation to your DIY Steam machine. And that leads me to Retroware Fridays. Let's see, what do we got here? This is I showed a GMC case the other day, or last week, and this is the GMC H80 case. And again, it's a interesting little case that just wouldn't work today because, it's got drive bays. Nobody uses 5¼ inch drive bays anymore, but there's a front panel there that has eSATA, USB 2.0 ports, audio, and is that a FireWire port? Yeah, so let's see. Typical case stuff. Drive bays for hard drives. So that's the thing, is like I built a case now and it has some NVMe SSDs in them, and I kind of wanted to put a traditional hard drive in there just for some cold storage or some backup storage, but I'm hesitant to because it's a hard drive is loud, And so it's kind of just remembering that. So these old cases have space for 5 or 6 or more hard drives. They were loud. So there was absolutely a thing about choosing the right drive because they would be louder. That's the thing. When I mentioned my NAS, I have four 16 terabyte drives in it, but I got the ones that were louder than they're supposed to be, and I chose the wrong model. So it just clicks like a beast. So it's like back in the day, if you had certain Seagate drives, they'd be quiet, but if you had certain Western Digital drives, they'd be loud. So if you chose the wrong drives and you had 4 or 5 of them in there, it would be really loud. Uh, so interesting case design there, a close up of that. Oh yeah, so I guess this is a display of some sort. Um, oh yeah, look at that. You can't really see it, but a traditional front end, instead of a hinge spring, that just uses a straight spring. And if I remember right, the DVD drive would catch it, and it was bad design. Um, so that was interesting. I just thought I'd show that to you. Here is a Noctua NHD14 heatsink, and this was a monster heatsink, air cooling heatsink. I think this would work today on today's PCs. It's got 12 heat pipes, and when I was going to bring this up to show this guy to you today, I was going to talk about how heat pipes work, and I actually wrote a couple articles about that before, and it's just kind of interesting how that works. So it's like this is just one pipe. It's not like a circuit like water cooling is, where water goes in and goes through like a racetrack. It's like there's one pipe each. It doesn't, and you have these fluid that as things heat up, the fluid goes up and is wicked by these channels on the inside of the heat pipe. And it's just interesting how heat pipes work, how they transfer heat. And they use fluid to do it, but it's not like there's mechanical assistance like doing phase changes like you do in an air conditioner or anything like that, or a pump that moves the liquid. It's basically just good old physics. Liquid heats up, and surface tension makes the liquid attach to the channels on the inside of the pipe. And that's how heat pipes work in a nutshell. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are really good at that. When I'm wrong on something, you sure let me know. So let me know if I get it wrong. But look at this big heatsink. It's a monster. It's like, let's see. So there's 12. It's not an octopus. It would be a. I don't even know what 12 is. Hex? No, that's 8. I don't know. Dodeca. That's 20. I don't know. And of course, the Noctua brown fans. So there's that. There's big monster heatsink from back in the day, and that would, if it would attach to heat sinks today, it would totally work there too. Here is something interesting. It's the GoFlex Home. It's kind of like a little mini NAS. Basically, they had their like little hard drive in its own shell, and you basically attached it to a base. And so that's the funny thing. It says it's the free agent GoFlex Home wireless, but the thing is, what made it wireless, it didn't have its own Wi-Fi included. You just attached it to your Wi-Fi router, and that's what made it wireless. But they marketed it as a wireless solution, but you have to attach it to your Wi-Fi router. But it's kind of neat. It's kind of, I'm trying to remember if it was overpriced for what it is. Compared to the price of like a traditional hard drive, it was more expensive. So there was a particular type of user they were going after here. It did have a USB port, and you could connect it to your computer, and you could use it just like any other USB-based hard drive. But it did have a network port, and you could connect it to your router, so you could connect to it either wired or wirelessly. And it just had this SATA port that you would just dock this hard drive into. And they had software to connect to it. Yeah, this one was a 1 terabyte, and it did have some software to connect to it. But basically, it was once you set it up, it worked like a NAS, and you could just connect to it and just drop files to it, and it worked pretty well. Um, but that was the thing. That was the thing that people did. And that was RetroWare Fridays. So I think that is it. I know I promised a lot today, and I told you that today was chock full of information, and there was a lot of info today. So I'm going to have links to stuff in the description after this podcast is over. You can go check out the gameplay footage on the OC Modshop Clips channel. I didn't show you the Subnautica 2 gameplay, but that video is also on the OC Modshop Clips channel, and I'll link that in the description. So uh, I wish you guys well. I have more stuff going next week. Watch out for the new videos coming out next week about how to wire up an Ethernet jack. I have some other stuff coming. There's been a lot of talk about 16 gigabytes of RAM for gaming. Is it good enough? And I spent a lot of this week doing benchmarks, and I will show you the pros and the cons of 16 gigabytes versus 32 gigabytes versus 64 gigabytes of RAM and what it means for gaming, and also how single channel versus dual channel affects your game. So if anybody wants to be smart about it and say, well, it depends. Well, yes, it does. But that's why I did all the research. So look out for that video because I have a definitive answer. You'll finally know the answer. Is 16 gigabytes enough for PC games? Look out for that next week. And I will see you guys later. Watch out for the OC Modcast episode 6 next Friday. And thank you all for watching and supporting me. And I will see you guys later. Bye now.